Hey everybody, Patrick here at Bombshell Miniatures, and I've got another project on the workbench today. In this video, I wanted to show you how I took a new model and turned it into a model that looked like it was older from back in the day. So originally the concept for this project began with acquiring the Sisters of Battle box set that came out in 2018 or 2019, I believe. So I've had these models for quite a while and have only recently started putting them together and painting them. In the Army box, it included the new plastic Penitent Engine. Now, I've got to be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of the original Penitent Engine, and I never did get one of the metal versions. But after seeing the way that the design was on the new Penitent Engine, I compared the two, and I really kind of liked the original design. On the new Penitent Engine, the legs were a little stumpy, kind of short. So I wanted to do something that would not only increase the height of it, but also give it more of a Grimdark vibe, kind of like that original Penitent Engine. There were three things that I wanted to do with this particular conversion project. One, I wanted to replace the pilot with a pilot that looked a little bit more like the original metal model. So I decided that I was going to cut this part off and replace that with a new custom sculpted penitent prisoner, or whatever they're called. The second thing that I wanted to do was replace the legs. And I knew that the original metal model had legs that looked like the Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum Sentinel legs. So I decided I would look online and see if I could find some bits that would replace those. The third thing that I wanted to do was replace the flaming smokestacks on the top of it. I wanted to come up with something that looked a little bit gothic, but not something that had flames shooting out of the top of it. The axle for the Sentinel legs was a little bit tricky to get that to fit properly, so I had to trim quite a bit of it away and do several test fits to make sure that the two parts fit together well enough and create a strong join. There were still a couple of gaps, but that would be easy to sort out. I went ahead and tacked the parts together using model glue. And then once those were in place, then I could fill the gaps with putty. I took measurements of the parts that I wanted to replace to make sure that the digital models would fit with the practical models. Then I opened up ZBrush and started creating all of the replacement parts that I wanted. I replicated some of the parts that would fit on the practical model itself, and then I had lots of leeway to create the new pilot and all of her connection points. Modeling the new smokestacks was fairly straightforward since it was pretty much just a cylinder with some details on it, but I did have to measure everything to make sure that the new smokestacks would fit in the space. But I didn't calculate the detail on some of it and had to trim a little bit of that away, which you'll see here in a minute. While I was waiting on the 3D parts to print, I was able to go back and finish patching up the seams and so forth on the actual model itself. Doing a little bit of a test fit after the prints were finished, it seemed like it would work like I was expecting. Test fitting the smokestacks, I noticed that, well, there was a little piece that didn't quite fit next to some of the other trim on the top of the model, so I had to clip that away. There was still a little bit of gap filling to do on the main body section, so I went ahead and used some Aves epoxy sculpt to fill in those gaps. I had to trim away the key tabs on the insides of the legs where they attached to the axle in order to pose it correctly. And the same had to be done with the arms. I 3D printed a larger custom base in order to accommodate the wider stance that the Sentinel legs gave the model. Then, to finish off the build, I added a little bit of texture paste from Monument Hobbies. I started with black primer and then gave the model a base undercoat of Payne's Gray to sort of lighten it up and prepare it for the washes that I was going to put on it later. Over this base coat, I dry brushed and kind of stippled on some chipping and edge highlighting along certain areas to sort of define the shape of the model. At this stage, I was ready to start doing all of the shading. Before doing a series of washes in order to shade the model down, I had to go back and paint some of the detail areas, or at least base coat them, since they were going to be a different color or different material. I haven't done a lot of oil washes in the last 20 years painting miniatures, but it is something that I did early on as a scale modeler, so starting to kind of get back into this brought a certain nostalgia to the whole process. With a lot of these Grimdark or oil and enamel washes that a lot of modelers or painters are using today, they will go in and use little sponges or Q-tips, cotton buds or something in order to wipe off the extra bits from the washes that they'll put on there. And I decided not to do that with this because since the model is supposed to be an overall black color, I kind of wanted the black oil paint to tone down the entire model. So while the mineral spirits allowed the wash to seep into the crevices and create nice, panel lines and that sort of thing, and create a grimy film over it, I didn't really want to wipe that off. I wanted it to stay dark since the overall color of the model is supposed to be black. With that in mind, all of the areas that I had painted or undercoated with gold, I decided to go back and make up an oil wash with a burnt sienna color in order to tone the gold areas down and give them a really antique or weathered sort of look. After the oil washes had completely dried, I went back to that highlight color that I had mixed up before and sort of reinforced the highlights on the edges of the parts, the edges of the panels, and so forth. Once the edging was done, I decided I wanted to add a transfer to one of the knees. This was really fiddly to do and to get it to stay straight on there, but I eventually got it in relatively the place that I wanted it to be. After that had completely dried, I went back and took like a sharp tool and added some scratches and a little bit of battle damage on the top of that. Using some orange oxide and burnt orange, I went around the model and created some little patches where I could try some stippling to simulate rust on some of the lower areas and metal bits where water may collect or something like that. I thinned down some of that orange paint with a lot of water and ran that along some of the creases and crevices along the legs where water may collect or run down, rain or something like that, and create some rust in those little recesses. Once the rusty bits had dried, I took some bright silver and went back over and punched up some of the other metal areas. I went back with a brighter gold and punched up some of the highlights on the gold areas, and then edged some of them with a little bit of gold that had some silver added to it. Since my Sisters of Battle army is deployed on the desert world of Sanctuary 101, I decided that I would wet blend some various browns on the base in order to give it a deserty sort of a look. This was shaded with a purple wash in order to create some shadows and deepen the colors. After the wash had dried, I went back and stippled on some lighter tan colors and more of a warm yellowish highlight. I made some custom grass tufts to add around the rocks to make the base a little bit more interesting. Finally, the base gets a dark umber rim in order to match the other models in my army. I started off with a mid-tone shadow color and kind of worked that around the pilot. getting in between the connector hoses was really fiddly, and I was trying to keep the paint off of other areas that I didn't want it to get onto. The shroud needed to be white, so I mixed up a very, very light color using Payne's Gray and Ivory in order to create a base for the loincloth and the shroud. Then I went back over and highlighted that with straight ivory. At this point, I just continued to work my way around the model and shade and highlight as I needed for the different materials and the different areas. And of course the pilot needed a transfer on the top of her cowl, which was super fiddly to get to fit into place. But since I had the micro set, I was able to get it to conform to the curvature of the top of her head, so that seemed to work out okay. After the transfer had set and everything had dried, I went over that with a really thin wash of ivory paint in order to give it sort of a faded look. Then it was just a matter of installing the pilot in her final sanctorum. I hope that you've enjoyed watching how the project came together. It was certainly a lot of fun for me to work on the Penitent Engine, and I got to do some stuff on this project that I don't normally get to do, like doing oil washes and weathering with chipping and rust and that sort of thing, and water slide transfers. I don't normally do stuff that has that, so that was a lot of fun to do that again since I was building model kits as a kid. Be sure to click that like button and click the subscribe thing and the bell to be notified and all that YouTube stuff. And I will see you next time on the workbench.